Winter has no end. The earth waits in silence, its breath held in despair. Once golden fields now lie in ruin, stripped of warmth, stripped of life. Crops rot beneath the frozen soil, rivers sleep under sheets of ice, and the people lift their eyes to the heavens, asking why the gods have abandoned them. The wind moves across the barren land, carrying only a whisper, a prophecy passed from lip to lip, from heart to trembling heart. The earth will not bloom until she returns. But where is she? Where has the daughter of spring gone, the maiden who once walked among the flowers and filled the valleys with laughter? She is not lost in the light of day, but trapped in the kingdom of shadows. There, in halls of silence, she sits, Persephone, child of Demeter, yet now bound to Hades, lord of the underworld. She is no longer just a daughter, nor merely a goddess. She is a symbol caught between two realms, freedom and captivity, innocence and desire, life and death. And in her hand rests the object of her fate, not a crown, not a chain, but a seed, a single seed, red as spilled blood, glistening in the dimness of that eternal cavern. She gazes at it, her eyes heavy with knowing. For the gods have rules, ancient and unyielding. To eat of the underworld is to belong to it. And yet hunger gnaws at her, temptation pulls at her. The seed is life, and the seed is prison. She lifts it slowly. The weight of the cosmos hangs in that movement, a choice, or perhaps no choice at all, a trap disguised as sweetness. The fruit touches her lips, and with it the balance of the world tilts forever. One bite and winter is born. One bite and the seasons themselves are broken. One bite and humanity's endless cycle of loss and renewal begins. So we must ask, why this seed? Why this fruit, bursting with countless hidden chambers of red, chosen to bind a goddess to darkness? What secret did the ancients see in the pomegranate that made it the key to life, death, and the rhythm of time itself?
She was the daughter of light, born of Demeter, the goddess who wrapped the world in harvest and abundance. Persephone's steps once stirred blossoms from the earth, her laughter carried through meadows, her presence a promise that life would never fade. To mortals, she was spring itself, renewal given form. But beauty draws shadows. From the depths below, Hades, lord of the underworld, saw her and desired her. And in a moment that shattered the harmony of gods and men, he rose from the blackened earth, seized her, and vanished into the darkness beneath the soil. Demeter's cries shook the heavens. The mother searched endlessly for the daughter stolen from her arms. And as grief hollowed her heart, the earth withered. Fields turned barren, trees bore no fruit, mortals starved under the cold weight of her sorrow. The world itself was held hostage, caught in a divine conflict no human could escape. It is here the mystery takes root. For in that underworld chamber, Persephone did not fall by sword or chain, but by seed. Why the pomegranate? Why did this fruit, rich with crimson jewels, become the symbol of her captivity? Was it mere hunger that drew her hand, or a secret law of the cosmos that demanded her binding? And what truths did the ancients bury within this tale? Was it only a story to explain the changing of the seasons? Or did it whisper of something greater, initiation, sacrifice, the endless cycle of life and death? The questions do not end there, for across centuries and across empires, this myth has endured.
It has outlived kingdoms, crossed languages, and found its place in temples, in paintings, in poetry, in the very fabric of human thought. How does a single story of a girl, a god, and a fruit continue to haunt us thousands of years later? To understand, we must return to the fields of ancient Greece, where gods and humans shared a fragile balance. It began on a day of brightness, when the sun lingered gently over the meadows of Greece. Persephone wandered among the wildflowers, her hands weaving blossoms into crowns, her voice carrying through the valley like the song of spring itself. The air was warm, the fields alive with fragrance, and she believed herself safe under the watchful eye of her mother. But the earth is never silent. Beneath her feet, the ground groaned and split. From the depths roared a chariot of black iron, drawn by horses with eyes like burning coals. And upon it stood Hades, lord of the underworld. His gaze fixed upon her, his arms reached, and in one terrible instant, Persephone was taken. Her cries echoed against the sky as the earth closed behind them, sealing her fate below. Demeter heard her daughter's cry. The sound pierced her heart, and grief consumed her. She searched the earth endlessly, torch in hand, through night and day, across oceans and mountains, but Persephone was gone. And as Demeter wept, the earth wept with her. Grain withered in the fields, fruit shriveled upon the branch. The once living soil turned to dust beneath the farmers' plows. Hunger spread across the world, and mortals pleaded to the heavens. Still Demeter wandered, refusing comfort, refusing harvest, until the world itself threatened to collapse.
The cries of mankind rose so high that even Zeus, ruler of Olympus, was forced to intervene. He could not allow humanity to perish, yet neither could he deny the bond forged between Persephone and Hades. Thus began the bargaining, the mother demanding her child's return, the Lord of Shadows claiming his right, and the King of Gods seeking balance between life and death. But balance came with a price. For Persephone, though she longed to leave, had already partaken of the underworld's fruit. 6 seeds of the pomegranate had touched her lips, binding her forever to the realm of the dead. 6 seeds, one for each month, condemning her to half a year in darkness and granting her freedom only in the other half. And so the bargain was struck. When Persephone rises, spring awakens, the earth blossoms, and life returns. But when she descends, the land grows barren, winter grips the soil, and all creation mourns her absence. The rhythm of seasons was born from her captivity, a cycle of death and renewal written in the taste of a single fruit. But why the pomegranate and not another fruit? The answer may lie hidden in ancient symbolism. The pomegranate was no ordinary fruit. To the ancients, it was a vessel of secrets, a symbol too rich, too dangerous to be taken lightly. Break open its crimson skin, and you find not one, but countless seeds, a cluster of life hidden within. To the Greeks, this abundance was no accident. It spoke of fertility, of womb and birth, of the endless cycle by which one life gives way to another. Yet its beauty was tinged with blood. The juice that stained the hands was deep red, as if life itself had been pressed into liquid. To eat of it was to taste mortality, to recognize that life and death were forever intertwined. This duality made the pomegranate the perfect emblem for Persephone,
who belonged both to her mother's world of spring and to Hades' kingdom of shadows. The fruit was also bound to the mysteries of desire and marriage. A maiden who ate of it could no longer claim innocence. Its taste was initiation, a quiet vow that joined her to another. To some, Persephone's act was not merely a trap, it was a marriage rite, binding her to Hades as bride to groom, making her the queen of a realm she had never chosen. Thus, the fruit was both seduction and surrender, the crossing of a threshold from youth into womanhood, from freedom into permanence.
In Greek society, the pomegranate found its place in rituals of both joy and mourning. It was offered at weddings, symbolizing fertility, a blessing for children yet unborn. It was also placed upon the graves of the dead, a token for the journey beyond, a promise that death was not an end, but a passage. In the Eleusinian Mysteries, the most sacred rites of ancient Greece, the fruit's hidden seeds echoed the hidden truths of life and rebirth, whispered only to those who sought initiation. And the Greeks were not alone in seeing its power. In Persia, the pomegranate was sacred to Anahita, goddess of fertility and water, its seeds a promise of abundance. In Egypt, it was buried with the dead, a symbol of resurrection and eternal life. In Mesopotamia, it stood at the crossroads of love and death, tied to the goddess Ishtar, whose journey to the underworld echoed Persephone's own. Across cultures, across centuries, the fruit carried the same paradox, bursting with life yet shadowed by death, symbol of joy yet also of captivity. Perhaps it was this very tension that made the pomegranate the key to Persephone's fate, for no other fruit could embody so completely the truth of her story. Yet the myth was not just symbolic, it shaped how entire civilizations understood time itself.
The world itself became a mirror of her fate. When Persephone descended into the underworld, the earth withered in mourning. Frost sealed the ground, seeds lay dormant, and the air turned sharp with hunger. Winter was not just a season, it was absence, it was grief, it was the shadow of a daughter stolen from her mother's arms. But when Persephone rose once more, light spilled across the land. The fields greened, rivers flowed, and flowers returned as if stirred by her very breath. Spring was her homecoming, her return to the world of life. Thus the ancients understood the rhythm of nature, not as chance, but as story. The cycles of decay and renewal were the echoes of a divine drama, Persephone's steps marking the calendar, her exile and return shaping the lives of mortals. Farmers sowed and harvested with her in mind, trusting that her rise would bring plenty and her fall would prepare them for scarcity. The myth was not distant poetry, it was survival, a living compass for those who depended on the soil.
This sacred rhythm was enshrined in one of the most profound mysteries of the ancient world, the rites of Eleusinian. Here, initiates gathered in secrecy, sworn to silence, to honor Demeter and Persephone. What was revealed to them remains hidden even today, but fragments whisper of rituals that promised hope beyond the grave. Persephone's descent was not only the explanation of winter, it was the promise that death too was a season, and that return was possible. For those who entered the mysteries, her story was no mere myth. It was a truth that stretched beyond the fields, beyond the harvest, into the eternal. Through Persephone, the Greeks bound their world to a cosmic balance,
loss and return, sorrow and joy, death and rebirth. She was not simply the goddess of spring, she was the heartbeat of the seasons, the reason the world could fall into silence and then rise again in song. But myths evolve, and the story of Persephone has echoed across art, literature, and even psychology. The myth of Persephone did not remain in the soil of ancient Greece. It blossomed across time, taking new shapes in every age. On the clay of Greek pottery, she is shown with Demeter, torch in hand, searching for her lost child, or seated beside Hades, crowned yet sorrowful, a queen who is both captive and sovereign. Centuries later, the Renaissance painted her again, this time draped in light and shadow, embodying both beauty and dread, her story retold as an allegory for the mysteries of life itself. Even today, poets, novelists, and filmmakers return to her, weaving modern voices into an ancient thread. Persephone's story never dies, it only changes form. Psychologists have also turned their gaze toward her, finding in her journey a symbol of transformation. To descend into darkness, to suffer, to be changed, and to rise again, this cycle mirrors the human experience of trauma and renewal. She is the soul that endures loss, learns from shadow, and emerges reborn. Her myth is not distant. It is the story of anyone who has fallen and found a way back into the light. Yet her tale also burns with questions of power and consent. Was she stolen against her will, or did the pomegranate mark a choice? Was she victim, bride, or something in between? Someone who seized authority in the very place she was meant to be powerless. In these questions, her myth speaks to enduring struggles over gender, autonomy, and the lines between captivity and self-definition. That is why Persephone remains more than a goddess in an old story. She is the symbol of humanity's search for meaning in suffering, for renewal after loss, for hope in the face of inevitability. Her descent and return remind us that death itself can be seen not as finality, but as passage. And so we return to the moment it all began, a single bite, a single seed. In the stillness of the underworld, she lingers. Persephone, her hand trembling, raises the pomegranate to her lips. The juice drips scarlet, staining her mouth like blood, binding her forever to shadow. In that single moment, the fate of seasons, the sorrow of a mother, and the rhythm of the world are sealed. But the myth of Persephone is not about one goddess alone. It is about us. It is about our winters of grief and our springs of renewal, about the losses that shape us and the returns that save us. It is the eternal reminder that even in darkness, the promise of rebirth waits. So I ask you, what do you think the pomegranate truly symbolized? Was it a curse disguised as sweetness, a choice taken in silence, or a secret wisdom that the ancients carried and we have yet to fully understand? Share your thoughts below. I would love to hear your interpretation. And if you wish to journey deeper into myths and mysteries, join us. Subscribe so you don't miss the next story, because the mystery we uncover next may change the way you see the world.